Hello and welcome to Political Glamour. This is the second video in a three-part series where we're looking at Saul Alinsky's rules for radicals and how you can use it to make a positive change in your community. If you've not seen the first video, where I cover organising, click the link on screen now. For those of you who have been lucky enough to see it, won't you join me where we discuss the titular rules for radicals and what tactics you can use to start making a difference. So without further ado, here are the rules for radicals.
Radical! Is that your final answer?
Rule 1. Power is not only what you have, but what your enemy thinks you have. As we discussed in the last video, people equal power. But what do you do if you don't have that many people? Well, you just need to remember the maxim of eyes, ears, and nose. What does that mean? Basically, if you've got the number, you need to show it off in front of your enemy, so their eyes. If you don't have that many people, but you have some, then you need to make a loud noise without giving away your numbers, the rules of ears. Then, finally, if you really don't have that many people whatsoever, that you can't make a loud noise, then it's nose. Basically, stink up the place, make a mess and cause as much trouble as possible. Rule 2. Never go outside the expertise of your people. I'm sure you already know this, but you need to play to people's strengths. So if you've got someone who's good with social media, have them run your social media campaign. Got someone who's good with speaking, have them lead your rallies. Play to people's strengths. There's no point putting people in situations where they don't know what they're doing, because they're going to get confused and they're going to struggle and it's not going to end well for you. Rule 3. Whenever possible, go outside the expertise of your enemies. Just as if you are out of your depth, as I mentioned in the last rule, if your opponent is in that same situation, they're out of their depth, they too won't be able to respond or act efficiently. Basically, you need to cause confusion and fear in your opponent. This is a tactic you've probably seen used by big companies and wealthy people, where they will send a legal letter to someone who doesn't have a legal education and can't afford a lawyer. That letter goes outside their experience. So they get the letter, they read it, they panic, and they essentially do whatever the letter says and whatever the person who says they're going to bring legal action against them wants them to do. When it may be the case that there's no legal precedent for it, or that the law might actually be on the person's side who receives the letter, but because they don't have the relevant training or access to legal professionals, they just cave in. This is going outside their expertise and as such causes them to fail. Rule 4. Make the enemy live up to their own book of rules. Unless, of course, the person is Dominic Cummings. If you live in the UK, then you'll know very well that the UK government's senior advisor who brought in lockdown rules decided he was going to break his own rules. And of course, that is a huge hypocrisy, so people called him out on it. Now, did he lose his job? No. But has his reputation and image of the government been battered by this? Yes. So it is a powerful tool. Rule 5. Ridicule is a person's most potent weapon. If someone is ridiculed, it can be hard to annoy and even harder to counter, because when you are countering it, you're essentially wasting time when you could be discussing other things. This is a very powerful weapon. The most present example you've probably seen it used by is, unfortunately, President Trump. You've seen him use it a lot, where he'll give people silly nicknames like Sleepy Joe or Crooked Hillary. And the reason he does that is because it works. All you need to do is come up with a simpler, catchy name that catches in someone's head, then that's all they think about when they associate that person. So for example, with the term Crooked Hillary, it works then to undermine everything that she says. She can say whatever she wants, but then people go, well, that's Crooked Hillary though, isn't it? It undermines anything that that person says. Not only that, but if you're being laughed at as a person, it's kind of hard to be taken seriously. It's not just about name calling, it is essentially just taking the piss out of someone. It lessens their importance, make them seem silly or not worth their time. For example, satire is used in this regard to make very important things or very dangerous things seem absolutely pathetic. Rule 6. A good tactic is one your people enjoy. Enjoying what you're doing and having fun keeps people engaged. Take a protest, for example. You may see people there singing or dancing and having fun. They do this to make it more bearable, to have a good time. Because, for example, if you go to a protest, it's really boring and it drags on. After a while, you're just going to leave because you've had enough. As I said, Anger and righteousness can only sustain you for so long. However, if you go and have a good time, turn it into more of an event, people will stay engaged longer, people will stay longer, and thus the power of your message and what you're doing will go further. Rule 7. A tactic that drags on too long becomes a drag. As I said in the last rule, something that drags on for too long will begin to lose people's interest. Not only the people engaged with it, but also the very people you're trying to reach and get on side. If something's really long and boring, people will just switch off. So you need to find ways to spice it up and keep it interesting. Otherwise, you're going to fizzle out. Rule 8. Keep the pressure on. Don't relent. When it comes to pressure, your enemy should get no respite. No one can ignore pressure if it's applied long enough. Eventually, they will have to give in and they will have to answer to you. Rule 9. The threat is more terrifying than the thing itself. In a workplace dispute, for example, a threat to strike could be enough to get management to meet your demands or open a dialogue with you, have a conversation, see what they can do to improve. However, this only works when they believe the threat is real. So if you're bluffing, saying, oh yes, we'll go on strike, then if push comes to shove, you don't, it undermines in the future any other threats you make. So threats are powerful because you don't always have to carry through with them, and it can put the fear into people. However, you need to be willing to actually follow through on it should push come to shove, otherwise you undermine your own credibility. The major premise for tactics is the development of an operation that will keep constant pressure on your opponent. There are many ways in which to do this. For example, a letter writing campaign, a social media campaign, something that continues on and on, that keeps happening, that they have no break from it. Again, this goes in hand with the last one, keeping the pressure on, but you need to find a way in which to do this that is sustainable. Rule 11. If you push a negative hard and deep enough, it will break through into its counter side. I had to do that to help me remember. When things begin to work and you cause a lot of pressure and a lot of trouble for your opponent, it may result to more underhanded techniques, try and throw everything they've got at you and basically cause a lot of trouble for you. Again, I have discussed in my first video about mental health, so if you want mental health links, do go check that out. Essentially, they're going to be causing you all sorts of trouble, throwing everything at you to make your life harder, make your goal harder. This is when you know that things are working. When they result to really bad tactics, really underhanded stuff, you know that they're getting desperate, and that is why they're throwing this at you. So although it may seem harder and it may seem worse, you just have to push through, because that's how you know it's working. Rule 12. The price of a successful attack is a constructive alternative. So you followed these rules, you followed organization, and you've won. Your opponent goes, okay, we'll listen to you. What is it you want? You then have to state exactly what it is and how it will be done. It can't be something like, oh, we want the police to be reformed. Because what you're doing then is handing the power back to them. So you say, oh, reform the police. They go, oh, okay. And then they can do it however they like. No, you need to state exactly what you want done. So if it was about the police, you could say, we want numbers cut. We want funding diverted. We want X, Y, and Z. Very specific things. Rule 13. Pick the target, freeze it, personalize it, and polarize it. This is without a doubt the most controversial of the 13 rules for radical. And I've done these in order as they are in the book, but I feel it's best we save this one till last anyway. So what does this mean? Let's go through it step by step, shall we? Pick the target, personalize it. So you need to work out who your target is. So if, for example, in the UK, I'm using this again as an example because it seems pertinent at this time, you want to reform the police. There's no point just targeting the government. That's a lot of people. Everyone's going to pass the buck. No one will take responsibility. So what do? You need to find out who can make a change. So for my police example, you would target the policing minister. If, for example, you want to target a company because they pay slave wages and then import the clothes, you wouldn't just target said company. You would find someone in that company who is responsible for this or who can make the change and specifically target them. That's what it means by personalize it. You need to find the person, Because otherwise, people in charge will just pass the buck, say it's nothing to do with me, it's their fault. Oh, it's not nothing to do with me, it's them. They won't take responsibility. That is why you need to find who you're going for. As such, when you find that person, you need to freeze them. You need to concentrate on them. You need to paint them as the devil and you as the angel. We'll go back to the government analogy. You go, oh yes, but they have done this for the police, or they've done this, or they've done that. They've done like a little bit. As if that somehow makes it okay. You have to freeze them. You have to put that all to one side and go, no, what we're talking about is this now. Sort it. That's what it means by freeze them. Freeze them in this situation and go for them for that. Don't worry about what they've done in the past. It's this that you want them to react to and change. And this plays into polarization. Paint them as the devil and you as the angel. Why? Because as you polarize things, people won't want to get involved with what's seen as the bad guys. You see this a lot, especially with big corporations where they'll take on social justice cause, because essentially they don't want to be seen with the bad people. Why? Because of polarization. That and there's other things as well that, corporations making a stand is free advertising, but that's by the by. People won't want to join with the person who's seen as the bad guy. This means polarization doesn't have a middle ground. You simply need to find out why they're wrong, show why they're wrong, and show why you're right. I know what you're thinking, because again, this is a controversial one, but they've done good things, we can't ignore. No. Take something like the Declaration of Independence, for example. Do you really think it would have been as successful as after they wrote out, no tax without representation, the English shit on us, blah, 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 if at the end they then put, actually though, although those things are all bad, here are all the good things they've done for us as well. Kind of lessen the impact, wouldn't it, as a document? And there you have it. Those are the 13 rules for radicals. Unlucky for some. That is only a brief overview, and I've skimmed over these. If you want a more in-depth look, then please read the book. Check it out. It is a good read. But with that being said, hopefully the last video and this video are enough tools for you to get out there and start making a difference. It's not going to be easy, and it's going to take some time. That's why we need to get started now. So thank you for watching. Please share this with your friends and family or any local activist groups who you think would benefit from this knowledge. Please share it with them. Get the word out there. We need to build an anti-racist, anti-fascist movement, and we need to start yesterday. But the best time is now. So please like, share and subscribe to the channel. And thank you so much for watching. Part 3, where I state the case for auto radical, will be up soon. And again, hopefully I'll be clever enough to put a link here somewhere to that video. Stay tuned for that. Get out there and start making a difference. I know you can, because I won't make these videos if I didn't think people could start making a positive difference to this world. Thank you for watching, and remember, stay glamorous.